I'm just getting goosebumps watching this and getting a bit emotional, to be honest, because that was just such an incredible moment, especially in that young man's life. You're watching right now a clip of Prince Harry's interview with ITV News. It's airing right now in the UK, talking about his mother's funeral, his beautiful, darling mother's funeral. And isn't that an admission, revealing Prince William was initially going to walk behind his mother's coffin alone?
Let's get Royal Editor of the Daily Mirror, Russell Meyer's take on all of this. Russell, you're watching it as we're watching it. It is uncomfortable to watch. What's your take on everything?
Well, good morning, guys. Well, isn't it just? I mean, in moments we're seeing such searing honesty from Prince Harry, and it's hard to fathom how distant he is from his brother now, and how wrecked their relationship is, because he talks as though, you know, it was just the two of them together, and of course it was when they were children. But that deep divide that has existed for the last couple of years, it's really hard to comprehend. And I mean, what Harry should probably be applauded in is his honesty in coming forward and saying, you know, he still loves his father, he still loves his brother, and yet these periods of such dark despair within his life have really tormented him. And it's almost like it was you know, a few months ago, his mother's funeral, rather than 27 years ago. It's particularly sad. Yeah,
it's brutally honest. I really feel for him.
Well, again, I mean, talking with such honesty, and you can hear the emotion in his voice. And I think that what we've taken across the headlines that have come out from his book, and indeed this interview tonight, is just that Harry is so kind of tormented, but he's so marked by his mother's death, and he talks about the trauma that he has had to go throughout his whole life, and indeed the way that it did really shape him and his brother, and unfortunately for both of them, it's taken them on completely different paths until they've ended up in this very, very sorry state, unfortunately.
He's also elaborated on his and Prince William's feelings about the now King Charles marrying Camilla. That's another really, really uncomfortable moment. It sort of seems like this is therapy for him.
Yeah.
You know, like he's getting all of this stuff off his chest. This is a man who's not been able to say what he truly feels about things up until now. Where is this going to end up, Russell?
Well, I mean, that's anyone's guess, isn't it? I mean, the fact that Tom Bradby, the interviewer, talks to him about being scathing, that's the word he uses, about Camilla, and Harry almost questions him. And then you hear that clip when he's accusing Camilla of playing the long game, essentially just positioning herself at the front and centre of the British monarchy. They begged Charles not to marry her, and he still went ahead and did it anyway. Later on, he also talks about Camilla, you know, getting into bed with the devil, he calls it, so positioning herself as someone who needed her own sort of PR with her character to be whitewashed because of everything that she'd been through. I mean, how on earth his relationships will recover from the royal family, I just can't fathom, because it's been bombshell after bombshell. But despite him talking about seeking forgiveness from his family, it's very, very hard to see how that can happen.
Russell, does he go to the coronation? It's in May, the coronation of his father, the future King of England. Does he go or not? Should he go?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine how he will go. However, Harry does leave the door open. He discusses with Tom, and indeed in the book as well, by saying, you know, there is always a chance to leave the door open. There's always a chance of reconciliation. But he almost seems to want his family to come to him, and that is seeming so far apart from the reality. Because over the last few days, we've seen these allegations of mistreatment, abandonment by his family. How on earth can they all sit down and thrash it all out when the relationships are truly, truly in the gutter? I can't understand how he thinks that will happen in just a few short weeks, because May 6th coronation is just around the corner. It will be on us before we know it, and I think it's going to take a long time for the dust to settle from these interviews.
Yeah, well, we've got another one in a few more hours, time, which we will of course be watching very closely, and I'm sure we'll talk to you in the days to come. Thanks, Russell.
Thank you so much, Russell.
Happening now. The first of Prince Harry's many television interviews is airing at the moment right now in the United Kingdom. Our Europe correspondent Brett McLeod is following all the drama. Brett, so far he's spoken mainly about losing his mother.
Yeah, went into detail about the circumstances of how he was told about his mother's death, and also the fact that he and William recreated that drive when they were much older through the tunnel in Paris, and how he still has doubts about the circumstances of her death, and clearly he still holds the paparazzi media responsible for that. Other things he's talked about, and things that we're aware of that are in the book, such as him taking cocaine when he was 17. But he does say he will always love his father and brother and all members of his family, despite the clear rift that's been now publicly ripped open between them. And most intriguingly so far, he says some members of the royal family have got into bed with the devil. What he's talking about is them leaking stuff to the press against him. And there's about an hour to go. And then, of course, the first of 3 American interviews gets underway. Lara?
Brett, just quickly before we let you go, I was just watching a few snippets of that interview in the ad break. I just wanted to get your thoughts, because what I saw, Harry was clearly opening up. It almost feels like he's trying to speak through these interviews to his father, talking about the first time that he revealed to him about some of his mental health struggles. What did you make of that, the way that he's talking about this relationship between him and the king?
I think that's right. This does appear to be the way that he speaks to his family now, through the medium of television and through his book. Whether or not they want to hear what he has to say, this method, well, that's a whole other question, because, of course, it's extremely public. And that's what I think a lot of people here and perhaps around the world have difficulty with, is that these are very deep personal family issues and things that, of course, you'd want a family to try to resolve. But airing it this way, while at the same time talking about the need for reconciliation, it's pretty hard to see how that bridge is going to be crossed anytime soon.
Yeah, it certainly feels like in his own way he's trying to reach out, but whether or not that will be the final result, we will stay tuned. Brett McLeod, thank you very much.
So we've already heard most of the juiciest parts of the ITV interview. Probably juiciest isn't the right word. Some of it's really quite heartbreaking, actually. And we've still got another interview to come in just a few hours' time. So I'm sure that there will be so many more bombshells by the end of this day.
Absolutely. Talking about his mother's funeral really got me, and how Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, said it was complete barbarity, making those 2 boys, her sons, walk behind that carriage. And as a 12-year-old boy, can you imagine the trauma being out in the public like that, in front of the world to see? He talks about that and so much more. It's fascinating to watch.
Prince Harry's highly anticipated interview with British broadcaster ITV is going to air just days after the leaking of his memoir. Joining us from ITV is royal editor Chris Shipp in London. Chris, it feels like we've already heard so much. Can we expect more bombshells to drop from this interview?
It kind of does, doesn't it? We've been talking about Prince Harry and the interviews around the book for a number of days now. But if we still played things out in tape, the cassette would be in the machine right now and someone's about to press play. We've got a 90-minute interview coming up with Harry in the next, 45 minutes or so. It's 8:15 in the evening here. It airs at 9 p.m. But as you say, I mean, we've had little teaser clips. We've also heard from his CBS 60 Minutes interview. We've heard from his Good Morning America interview as well. I mean, look, we haven't heard the full thing from the man himself, and that's what everyone's got their eyes on tonight.
So reports are already resurfacing on how the royals have reacted to Harry's memoir, one of them being that Harry's going to be written out of his father's coronation speech. Is there any truth to that?
Well, look, we haven't had a coronation in this country since 1953, when the Queen had her coronation, and we know that the King's is coming up in May of this year. We have had zero response from Buckingham Palace, zero response from Kensington Palace as well. Look, I'd expect, my full expectation will be that Prince Harry and Meghan will get an invite from his father, the King. Just as they said before in previous statements when they've come to disagreements, like after the Oprah Winfrey interview, they've always said Harry and Meghan are much loved members of this family. I fully expect them to do exactly the same thing, invite Harry and Meghan. If he chooses to come or not, well, that's down to him. And as you heard him say in a clip released a couple of days ago to our correspondent, Tom Bradby, there's a lot that can happen between now and then.
So with everything that has been said, do you think that there is any hope of reconciliation between Harry and the rest of the family?
You know, that's the really, really big question now. I mean, Harry said in the preview clips that we've heard that he hopes he can reconcile with his family. He wants his father back. He wants his brother back. I mean, I just can't see how that is. Well, it's certainly not easy. I can't actually see how it's possible, given the amount of very private information that Prince Harry's now put into the very public domain. His argument, of course, is that the royal family have had their say for too many years. They've been briefing the press, and I've never had my say. I think most people will agree, this week in particular, Harry's had his say. And it's now really how the palace responds. My expectation will be that the palace will go back to work next week. We think the King's due out in the middle of the next week. William and Kate at some time as well. And they'll continue doing the job that they want to do and they will focus on.
Well, this is the thing. He says he hopes to have a reconciliation, but he's going about it in a very strange way. What do you think, in his heart of hearts, that he thinks he will achieve by doing these interviews? Is it selling more books? Is it making up with his dad and brother?
I mean, it's a very strange way to go about making up with your dad and brother, to articulate some very private fights, or as Harry accuses his brother of attacking him in the kitchen of his home and falling on the dog bowl and breaking his necklace and all the rest of it. I think most people will agree that's a very odd way to go about it if you do want reconciliation. Harry's view is that you know, he's done Netflix, they've done the Oprah Winfrey interview, they've got the book. This is their way of putting out their story to the world and saying, this is what happened to us. Remember, and I keep saying this is the point of view according to Harry and Meghan. We haven't heard from the other side. You know, is that going to bring the King and William to the phone and to say, "Oh, Harry, let's make up"? I just can't see it myself. I think it's going to be very, very, very difficult for them to do that now. But, you know, they're family. Families do have arguments. You might say some families have come back from much worse than this. I can't actually think of any examples of that. But I suppose it is.
G'day Today Show viewers. Thanks for watching YouTube. Our YouTube channel is fantastic. Subscribe now for brand new videos every day and exclusive bonus clips. Come on, you know you want to.